Hey, it's David with LTD Media. I'm back with season 3 of the Now You Know podcast. This is the first episode of the new season. I have a good friend of mine I haven't talked to in a little bit. His name's Scott. He does a lot of cool things. I'm going to let him talk about it. He was recently on the news. His program was on the news. We're going to talk about that. And we're going to talk about the importance of local business and what it does for the community. So before I go any further, the listeners need to know more about you. So tell us about you, Scott.
Well, first, let me say thank you, David. It's good to see you.
Thank you.
I know it's been a little while, but time does fly. So my business name is Japan Karate Federation, Tucson, Arizona. We're a martial arts school here in Tucson. We started in 2010. Our program has developed over the years from a small program at the U of A through the campus rec to a specialty program at the U of A to now our own brick and mortar location, actually just up the street from where we are right now.
Yeah. So what's the address for where your location's at?
Oh, well, boy, you would ask that. Why am I spacing on 6906 North Camino Martin, Suite 140?
Yeah. Okay, yeah, that's right down the street from here. I've been there. It's a nice place, nice dojo. Did I pronounce it right?
Yes, you did.
Yeah, I've actually gotten to go there. It's really cool. It's clean. I saw some of your programs going on. It was awesome. So before you got to doing this Japan Karate Federation thing, this business, all kinds of other stuff was going on before that. So tell us about your life before this. What were you doing?
Well, in a nutshell, I was pursuing my lifelong dream. Since I can remember, I had wanted to learn Japanese. I wanted to learn martial arts. I wanted to go live in Japan. And pretty much that is what I put my efforts in academics, work endeavors as well as trying to make that dream a realization. So I did the 8-year plan after graduating high school.
Mm-hmm.
I went to junior college, local community colleges. Interestingly enough, I did take a small business management class.
Yeah.
I'll go a little bit more in detail as to how that went. But really, my goal was to get degrees in language and language teaching. So before transferring to San Diego State, I had taken a lot of language courses, as well as some really good courses in nutrition, personal training, because I was really into working out. As my father, was into working out. We played a lot of sports growing up, but my dream was to practice martial arts. Mm-hmm. And of course, we were hounding our parents to get us in martial arts classes since we could, but it was commonly believed that would lead to more fighting, violence. So we pretty much stayed with soccer, flag football, basketball, those sports. After finally getting into martial arts classes when I was 12, 13, under Norm Bellstring Sensei, my passion and my fervor for making this dream a reality come true, because Sensei had always talked about his experiences living in Japan. And so it was even stronger of a reality I thought I could make happen. Mm-hmm. After transferring to San Diego State, I was able to be introduced to the Japanese language advisor as well as the linguistics advisor. And I double majored in two things that I thought I could do all day long: study language and study the study of languages and languages. So I got an ESL, EFL teaching certificate. That really is kind of what helped me get the job in Japan, mm-hmm. although I really didn't need those particular credentials to get a job in Japan. I graduated 2003. Oh boy, it seems like a real long time ago. Spent 6 years in Japan teaching English at a private school.
Yeah.
I was there for 6 years, and to me that was applied field work. I had been a language learner for so long. Then I was, in a linguistic environment where I was teaching, my first language to, native Japanese speakers
Yeah.
of all ages. And the goal was to eventually, at some point, come back to the United States, pursue higher education, get into a master's program, and potentially go after a doctorate as well. So in 2009, I came to the U of A to study Japanese linguistics and primarily focus on bilingual, multilingual families, socialization through language. I have two children who we have raised bilingual and biliterate to a strong degree.
Yeah.
And that's, so 2009 came to the U of A. 2010, pretty much the beginning of the business here, because I had students who were at the U of A, Japanese language students, who had heard about me, found me, and asked me to teach. And that's kind of, the rest is history, as they say.
Yeah. Did you fall in love with it?
Well, I mean, it was second nature, because I had been teaching for as long as I can remember. It may not have been the best time to do that, because I had just started my doctoral program, but the deal was, if this student could help us find a place to train, that we would train together. And then that just blossomed into taking on more students, starting off with a sports team at the U of A, which then evolved into a larger entity, and the need to expand with more students who were progressing. So that's really kind of where we've come from.
Yeah, well, you were doing something right, because you just kept growing and growing and growing.
Well, but without people who wanted to do the training, there wouldn't have been a program.
Yeah. So you had a reputation already. People.
Yes, it started with one person that had heard. Yes, so it only takes one, right?
Yeah,
it only
for
takes
sure.
one.
For sure. Who were your influences?
Gosh, I get this question a lot, because the martial arts that I've practiced, Shotokan karate, like, why was it Shotokan? Why wasn't it Taekwondo? Why wasn't it something else? And that was really coincidence. I never sought out in particular, Shotokan karate as a style of martial arts. I just knew, again, life direction, learn Japanese, learn karate, go to Japan. But a huge series of influences must have been martial arts movies. And I still remember being really inspired by the master apprentice relationship, and how cool that was, that here's this this student who has sought out this master and has to toil with yard work, scrubbing, cleaning, and it really isn't being directly taught martial arts, and it's all indirectly. And then there's that moment where, and we see this in a lot of other movies as well. There's that moment where the student questions, what have I been doing for the past 6 months, 3 years? I've just been cooking for you, cleaning for you, and then the master opens the student's eyes, and all this training that they have undergone, their body responds in ways because it's been trained to do that. And I just always was fascinated by that relationship, and I wanted that relationship. I wanted a sensei to teach me, and like I said, it was just coincidence that when the time was right, and my mother was tired of hearing me, ask for martial arts classes, that she had gone to our high school's. It was the Performance Arts Center at the high school.
Okay.
And all of the city Parks and Rec programs were showcasing through some demonstrations. So the dance classes, the gymnastics program, and our instructor, Norm Belsing Sensei, it was his turn to come out, and the way my mother puts it, she had no idea what it was he was teaching or what the kids would be doing. But the way that the students responded to him and how they just were on point like a unit, she knew within the first 30 seconds before the first punch or kick was thrown, whatever it is this man teaches, I want my kids learning from him.
Yeah.
And we were just very lucky that Balsung Sensei had a lot of practical experience, in his time in the military, being a law enforcement officer, as well as having one of the most practical, stronger karate styles out there, Shotokan karate, plus a lot of experience in Aikido, Japanese Jiu-Jitsu, and so we were just very lucky that this is what we were exposed to.
Yeah. So how does somebody become a sensei? What do you got to go through to become that or get that title?
Gosh, it's an interesting question because, in Japan, when I taught for this private company, you had native English speakers who, typically were hired to come teach, English, and they were teacher by job description. So you call them, Mark Sensei or Smith Sensei. They may not have had any teaching credentials at all, or teaching experience for that matter. They had a college degree, they had the right personality that the company was looking for, because they could be, a good facilitator, a good elicitator, and, a good entertainer, because, students that, work all week want to go to a class, and learn, but also enjoy. It helps to have somebody who's charismatic. So that went with the job. You were called sensei because that was in your job description.
Yeah.
There are certainly qualifications and certifications that one could pursue to make it quote unquote official. But for me, I think the acknowledgement and the permission from your sensei is bar none. And to have the black belts that helped raise you and train you, to have them backing that also, because gosh, you don't even need an instructor to get a black belt. You could go online, order your own black belt, get that embroidered. You could make your own certificate if you want, but the like I said, the process of having that master and you are the apprentice, and having gone through that, and then now is the time for you to do that with someone else or a group of other people, and that's where it's intangible. So it may come after 20 years of being under an instructor, or it may never come.
Well, you talk about how people can go online and whatnot and do what they want, but one thing I noticed, I went to one of your quarterly meetings, right? Or what was it?
Yes, that was a new student meeting that we have for prospective students who are hoping to try our classes out.
And then I also experienced you teaching, teaching one of your programs.
Right, yes.
Yeah, I was calling you sensei by the time I left. So, and I wasn't even in the class, but I was filming and stuff. But there's definitely a noticeable character development component that happens in the program that I saw for sure. And I also just saw the kids and students just working their butts off, and it didn't look like you had to say much. Like there's definitely huge respect factor in that thing.
Right, and I certainly not my my original idea or concept. But you hear a lot of great authors who talk about leadership, former Navy SEALs, for example. And there are some great books, audio books out there as well that talk about it. But you really want every link in the chain to be strong, and even your weakest link should have leadership capabilities. And you need practice. You won't get good at riding the bicycle if you don't practice. But at some point you also will learn so much more about how you ride that bicycle by having to show it. And it's a really important part of the learning process, whether it be language, whether it be, jumping rope, or martial arts. Super famous expression, to teach is to learn, and I think that's a really, as early as I can, I'll have my beginner students leading by just counting. Even if they can't count in Japanese quite yet, they can count, to 10. Because when it comes down to it, it could be that kid, at school, who happens to just have led a group in an activity that sees a student in need, with the fire drill, for example, and they know just to step in and help, lead that student through whatever it is. I mean, those things have to be learned, and you have to get practice at that, and that's really important part of the process.
Yeah. And I've seen you guys go and compete in events too, right? So you guys go outside of the dojo and go and compete?
We don't place a primary focus on competing. We can enjoy the competition.
Yeah.
They're definitely, I like to look at them as tests, especially if you aren't spending 6 months preparing for a competition, and, there's one on the horizon 2 weeks out, and, I'm just going to show up and, see what I can do. That's to me, it's the everyday preparedness anyway, which we focus more on, our everyday training, being able to, act, whether it's at the grocery store, grandma's having difficulty getting her bags into the car, and you're able-bodied, able-minded, and you've got that, kind spirit, and, you do those everyday acts of kindness that may not be labeled, heroic.
Yeah.
But getting out of the comfort zone, being scared, it's important, learning to accept defeat, over and over and over again, and still have a great time with it. Finding those personal victories, not, well, the judge, gave me the victory, or, the referee held my hand up. But you're able to find those personal notes of, hey, this is an accomplishment for me. I was able to do this. We do, under quote unquote normal conditions, we do 2 karate tournaments a year, 2 no-gi jiu-jitsu tournaments a year, 2 CrossFit events a year, and then we have our 2 humanitarian events, our Memorial Day Murph and our Pledge-a-thon. And that rounds out. It's a pretty full calendar when you think about it. I mean, and it's nice to have something, like I said, on the horizon that you maybe switch gears and prepare for. But we're not obsessed with the competition, because, like I said, our mission statement is to provide those, the knowledge, skills, attributes, and abilities for survival and success in the world today. Like I said, whether it be at the grocery store, in the classroom, in the work environment, but we can have a lot of fun with the competition, and that's important. Yeah, that is important.
Well, I really like that you're encompassing everything for the real world. I mean, if you want to be a fighter, go train at a gym to be a fighter that's specifically for fighting, right? But you're giving your students, you're teaching them skills for the real world. Like you mentioned, just being in a market and something bad goes down, they're ready, they're prepared. Or somebody's suffering a medical episode, they're ready and they're prepared. The listeners, if you're thinking about putting your kid in a program or something like this, I highly encourage you to do so, because the skills that they get from this program are so valuable going forward. Knowing how to react, the stress inoculation, they know how to adjust to it, because that's an important thing, right? Because stress inoculation changes people who have not been trained, and it changes people that have been trained too, but they don't know how to react if they haven't gotten any training. I can tell you that I've been through stress inoculation training, and if you are not prepared, something can happen, and it's called freezing.
Yes.
Yeah. In the line of work I was in, it was called cheesing up, where you just don't know what to do. Your body kind of just goes, oh no, I don't know what to do. But if you practice doing things, you can react a lot better.
Well, and that's extremely important. I think two nails you've hit exactly on the head. One, know what it is that you want. If the child or the young adult, has as their lifelong dream to, compete in the Olympics, you need to seek out programs that are designed for that. And hopefully those people that you go seek advice from will lay it down hard and thick and give you the strong reality check. Well, if you seriously want the podium in the Olympics, this is the kind of commitment that you're going to give, and what's going to be required of you. And that's extremely important, because again, that may be the difference between disillusionment years down the line, or a lack of goal accomplishment. For everyday real life situations, we won't know how the individual will act or respond in a given environment unless we try to, put them in there and recreate the stress and distress that we'll find. Like I said, my main influence is, my instructor. Hearing the stories he would tell us, again, he just kept fueling my passion to go to Japan because he had lots of great Japanese stories. But also his everyday experiences, in the military and law enforcement, and how like I said, the police officers go grocery shopping, and you happen to be, there as a first responder, whether you're, a civilian or not. I myself have been in quite a few of those where I wasn't looking for the trouble, just riding my bike down the street. And, their accident just happens right in front. Down the bicycle, and you just, autopilot kicks in.
I remember this story.
Yes, it was. I was going.
You got to tell it. You got to share it with listeners.
I was riding my bicycle down Ina to down Thornydale to Ina, and large downhill descent. And you could see the intersection down there, and you could see that it was a red light, and there was an elderly gentleman who was crossing the street, not in the crosswalk, but he was clearly crossing the street, and I was being passed by quite a few vehicles who were they were slowing down because they saw the red light, they saw the individual was also crossing the street. One driver did not, and struck the individual. And that just was, yards from where I was. So I, applied the brakes, down my bicycle, turn around, started waving my hands to slow down traffic. Oddly, there was a plainclothes officer just a couple cars up. He helped stop the traffic. Rendered whatever aid I could. Sir, can you hear me? Sir, can you hear me? And you really didn't think too much about what I was doing. I had CPR classes, I had first aid classes, but the body just went into action because, again, I think it had been conditioned to do so. We have many good-natured individuals out there that don't know how to act because the stress and duress of the situation puts on that freeze response. It's not always a fight or a flight response. There is that freeze response also. They took the gentleman to the hospital. I was interviewed, by another officer, and then went about my day. And yes, great respect for people who do that all the time.
Yeah.
But so there's a good handful of experiences in my life that weren't self-defense, fighting someone. Where my training has kicked in. In fact, probably 90% of those experiences where I can say my martial arts training, is what came to be there for me. Were all first responder situations, whether at school, jobs I worked, or just out in the public.
Yeah.
And that's really important because I think kids in school would help their fellow classmate if they knew how to.
Yeah.
But they also would need to, be able to overcome that initial freeze response. And training can certainly help that.
Yeah,
I don't think that there's an age that's you can't start training. But again, clearly identifying what it is that you want from a program. Do you want your child to podium at the Olympics, or do you want your child to potentially contribute at an everyday level, to keep themselves safe, but also to render aid to their, fellow, classmate, coworker, or individual on the street.
Yeah. Another thing we were talking about before the podcast, and even back when I had visited your dojo, is people will kind of apply to be in your program, but not everybody gets in because there's a vetting process that you go through to ensure that that's the program for them, that it'll benefit them and you and the family. Have you come across any other dojos that just kind of let anybody in? It's because of money, or are they all pretty close to following like a vetting thing that you do?
Gosh, I certainly don't want to speak for any other school that's out there. But thinking of mistakes that I made early on because I needed students. There was overhead. I needed students, and I'm not saying that I would accept anyone.
Yeah.
But I did not make the best process to guarantee that the student who was coming into my school, whether they were 7, 8 years old or 28 years old, that they knew for sure as much as possible that we were the right place for them.
Yeah.
And I have endeavored all these years to try to improve that process. Just I'm very thorough. I'm also I am an educator, and I had college students wanting to be in my Japanese language classes. That was clear after the first week. They were not going to do well in the class for a variety of reasons. But the instructor, the professor, the teacher, the sensei, whoever it is the one that's in that position to make the call and say, look, it will not be in your best interest to continue to pursue this, especially when the main objectives aren't being met, like learning, acquiring the language. It shouldn't be, I just need the credits, and that's why I'm taking this class. Although there are students who, they come to the class, that is their only reason why they signed up to Japanese 101. It had openings. They really weren't interested in Japanese at all. They weren't an anime fan or a manga fan, but they needed the credits. And I'm not saying that's bad, but successful students, will come around and acquire, proficiency in language, have fun and enjoy it. And on the other side of the spectrum, those students that they are like me, they knew exactly what they wanted. It's got to be Japanese. I've got to have. I've loved Japan, everything Japanese for my entire life. But still, the instructor has to be that one that goes, the way you're going right now, at this time in your life, at this semester, you're not going to survive, and you're going to have a lot more stress. You're not going to have any fun. You're not going to learn, and that's hard to speak directly to that student. Oftentimes, it's received poorly because feelings are hurt. It's always hard news is hard to take, and so I have worked hard to make sure that in the end, my main objectives as an educator is to provide the best for the student. And if we aren't that program, by the end of the process, by the time students get to the new student meeting, they've already had a one-on-one consultation, they've already had a class observation, they'll have 2 weeks of our quarter that they can try. So again, I can't say, your child will or will not do well in our classes without having seen them in our classes. And I also think that student, child, adult isn't going to be able to say, hey, I like this or not without having tried it. But if after, the one-on-one consultation, the class observation, the new student meeting, the 2 weeks of free trial classes, if we are not the right place, that is exactly the kind of data that we want to have, because now we can, what's the next step? Refer you to somebody else. And that's just how as an educator, I feel I would operate with my Japanese language classes. Look, Spanish maybe, Spanish has got openings. This might be the better time to do Spanish right now. Maybe, try to re-up on Japanese next year, or find another, class that would meet those credits if that's exactly what you need.
Yeah.
But I definitely understand, because I've been in those positions where I needed students, and how am I going to get rent paid? How am I going to grow?
Yeah.
So,
well, there's a business component to this whole thing, right? You gotta.
Yes, we have business needs. We got to pay the rent. We got to keep the electricity on.
And a couple years ago, year and a half ago, the government said gyms are closed.
Right.
You can't operate.
Right.
During the pandemic, because there's this virus that's killing everybody.
Right.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
That's a hard pill to swallow.
Yes.
When your livelihood and what you're doing is a gym, and you're with people, and you're teaching in person.
Yes.
Right. And it's a physical activity thing. This brings me to the next thing that we talk about on this podcast is struggles. Have you had any significant struggles building this business?
Oh, yes.
Other than that, unless you want to talk more on that, but that was a huge blow to the whole industry.
The dojo's ability to pull through that period of time came down to, I'd say, 99% the membership of the school.
Yeah.
I can steer the ship, I can captain the ship, but without the passengers staying on the ship, it's
a good way to put it,
right? Or you end up with potentially a mutiny on your hands.
Yeah.
The dojo membership was very proactive, responsive, with how we were going to deal with it.
Yeah.
And like most of us, we could not hold classes at the dojo. Mm-hmm. We pivoted. We went online. We used Zoom. We went online. And it wasn't something that I had to sell. I firmly believe, because I tell my students this, all the time, pre-pandemic, post-pandemic, just going to your class and participating in the class is not going to guarantee your success in the class. And my 7-year-olds will say, well, you can't really get the A in the class if you don't go home and do any homework.
Yeah.
If you don't go home and do any practice for the tests. You need that to learn, and to succeed. And this was really a great opportunity, because we were forced into it, for my students and their families to do how many months was it? I forget, because I think I want to forget, but it was like 3 or 6 months where we were distance learning, but training at home. And when I left for Japan in 2003, I had 6 years on my own, and I trained on my own. Sometimes all I had was a small space in front of the mirror in the bathroom. I found ways to train. I was just driven to continue to train. A small space like this in the living room to do some basics and some kata. I found ways to go outside and train. Side note, probably the only time I ever felt comfortable training outside in public was in Japan.
Why is that?
Because I was.
They didn't know you?
Because I was in Japan. I was in Japan. Of course.
Well, did a lot of other people do that?
I can't say it's common, but it's, it's not like the walking, talking panda you see down the street. There's somebody in the park working on their soccer drills. There's somebody in the park working on their golf skills. There's somebody in the park working on their martial arts. I just don't think it stood out as odd.
Yeah.
But I never felt, and this is something that I try to engender in my students, I never felt comfortable being out in a park, in a parking lot, publicly doing my karate. I never did, and I worked really hard to try to, be honest with myself, that was something that I was not comfortable with yet, and why not? But yes, and so the quick side note, that self-training, that you didn't have a school, didn't have my instructor with me, I didn't have my senpai with me, but I grew so much. Started to come to understand my training so much more because I was doing it on my own. And like I said, to plant that seed, and have it grow with the child, that hey, I can't just go to the martial arts school 3 days a week, and expect that I'm going to, succeed, get better, excel. Just like I can't expect to just show up to math class, go home, not do any of the math practice, or the homework. I gotta, showing up is not all of it. And saw some great improvement in students because they found ways to bring their training home, execute training at home, and that I think is oftentimes the biggest obstacle to students going home and doing some self-practice. They don't know how to do it. And so that was a great thing, actually. That was a great thing because these students were able to, at a much earlier stage in their martial arts development, bring their training home. It was forced, true.
Yeah, you made them uncomfortable out of necessity.
Yeah, so being an advocate for that. Like I said, it's not something that I had to sell to my membership, or convince them, but if it weren't for the members, who communicated closely as a group, we voted on things, how are we going to handle this? When are we going to come back? Even if we're allowed to come back, under what conditions, and that's where I attribute 99.9% of our success getting through that is to the membership.
Nice.
Yes.
It's good following.
Yes.
It's good following.
Would I do it? Would I do it again? Maybe
it's hard.
Maybe
man.
not. Maybe
I totally understand.
Maybe not.
That's hard.
Maybe not that. Maybe not that way under those conditions. But other hardships. Again, when you need people, like in a business such as mine, where you need students to go to the classes, to be able to generate the income to pay the expenses, there's a lot of trust that goes into that. And the first time I built the program in 2010 as a sports team, club sports team, I think is the more appropriate terms. I gave a whole year to those students, and most of them were absolutely serious about continuing. But there was a break in trust. They did not follow through on their end of the agreement, and I had to leave. I had to leave that group. And so Japan Karate Federation Tucson, Arizona, as a sports club at the U of A, ceased to exist. A few months later, however, a program director at Campus Rec came to me, and we saw what you did with the sports clubs, and that we think was a great thing. Would you consider doing something similar through our specialty program? And I'm a sucker for people who want to train. I mean, it's a weakness of mine. It only took that one student to approach me the first time. I reached out to some of the students who wanted to continue with me. And I said, look, we have this opportunity. Do you want to train? And I had enough of them to say, yes, we want to train again. So I told the director, yes, let's do this. The second hardship was, now that I had these students that were with me for almost 2 years, we only had 2 days a week, 90 minutes a class, and I was faced with this difficulty. How are my students going to grow? How are they going to develop? I had 3 programs going. I had the Shotokan Karate program, I had the Mixed Martial Arts program, I had the Kobudo, the Japanese and Okinawan Weapons program. I had students testing and promoting in all of them. How are they going to grow past this first year or second year with just 2 days a week? 90, and I had, made the decision to try to leave that security blanket, which was the U of A, because I didn't have any overhead at that time. They took care of all that. They just paid me as an instructor. Leave that security blanket to find a place where I could offer more training to those students. And I had 20-ish students that were with me, but when I made that move to share space at a CrossFit box just down the street from where I currently am, two came, two followed, so and again, that was another uphill battle to get more students to rebuild. But at least at that point, I could put 4 classes on the schedule, actually 5, a Saturday class. We could do some serious training because we had a dedicated spot 5 times a week. I could do all 3 programs, and from that, I was able to grow a little bit more. And then there was another difficulty, another obstacle. The space that I was using was going to disappear, and the program was going to be homeless very soon. And I thank the community of individuals who were out there to help me at that time, because we not only found our current space within 30 days.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, a
Nice.
complete relocation within 30 days. But it wouldn't have been possible without the other small business owners who saw that I was in trouble. Say, look, it may not be optimal, but here are some availabilities. You could come train here after we're all done. And we stayed alive for those 30 days or so we were homeless. And hey, victory, because now we've got our own place. But at the same time, holy crap, we've got our own place, and now we have legitimate. And again, so that's another. Rebuilding, re-beginning, which was hard, compared to having to close and not operate in our building. Those other ones were harder because those were periods where individuals I had trusted broke trust. And it's not that I had wanted to walk away. I had no choice. Once you have an experience or two like that, where some people that you are, really close to because you've given so much of yourself to them, and vice versa, and you want the absolute best. When it comes down to it, they break that trust, whether they're fully aware of how much that hurt or not. Those things you don't really fully come back from.
Yeah,
understandable. So
you gotta protect yourself.
You do, but those also. Bowswing Sensei, he had those, and it's part of growing up. I don't put this shield up, and I don't try not to put people off. But again, the reason why my vetting program process is as thorough as it is, because I don't want there to be any disillusionment. Yeah. People will know exactly what it is I'm going to give them, what I need from them, and they will make a serious commitment, but they know I am seriously committed to them as well. So there have been a lot of ups and downs.
Yeah.
But couldn't be possible without the support from my wife, which I will say, I'm very, very grateful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because anybody who says they can just do it alone, they're lying to themselves. Yeah,
they are lying. I'm right there with you.
They're delusional. Yeah, really. Yeah, really. So, but we made it. Like I said, we made it through that hard time. But that was really, like I said, the membership took that.
That's so awesome.
Yeah, they really did. Yeah.
That means that they really care about what you're doing, what they're doing. It's really cool.
Yes, and they trusted that their children could still get great training, learning. It's almost like with the isolationism that was happening. These kids, these students, needed to be with.
Absolutely.
Although you've got 20-something tiles of Zoom on a screen. They're still with each other.
Yeah.
and that camaraderie is even stronger because you've been through, some adversity like that.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I was talking with another guest I had on another podcast I did, and she's a fitness trainer over at Pursuit Fitness, and we were talking about the negative impacts of the isolation and how, the federal government and the people that are in charge of, deciding what's good for us weren't really focusing on any other options except locking down and doing nothing, right? They weren't talking about communication and sunlight and physical activity and your mindfulness and all that stuff. Like, that was all left out. And the fact that your students still had all that available is huge. And, it turned out to be a huge plus for you because they had that available, instead of just going, you could have just been, we're not going to do anything, like a lot of places did, but you didn't. And you have their trust. The greatest thing a leader can have is trust.
Well, and it took other individuals here in Tucson that I've learned a lot from as a small business owner, to try to find solutions to problems.
Yeah.
Like I said, I certainly did not do it all by myself.
Yeah.
If there's one piece of credit I'll take, is I think I did not have the ego in the way. I knew I needed help. I knew I needed alternatives. I knew something had to happen, and I wasn't afraid to go ask for help. And that's important because we all wanted and still want to pull through this, together. It's just when there are other individuals, a group of individuals that have certain decision-making power that frustrate our efforts, we can let that be the focus of our life and just get negative about it, or we can shift focus and say, okay, it's just another problem to solve. Let's collaborate. Let's network.
Yeah, I love that the community pulled through.
Oh, it's outstanding.
Yeah,
it's outstanding.
You have to have it.
You do.
Small business community is so important. You have to help each other.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, that's all you really got. Especially when you have people, that are up in offices in the government going, "Hey, we're not going to do this and that." It makes it real hard. So being able to just go to your neighbor, "Hey, what do you think about this?" We do it all the time. "Hey, what do you think about this?" "Oh yeah, that's great." Or, "No, that's a bad idea." Sweet. Now I know. It's good to know. It's good to have that confidence, and it comes from asking questions. I mean, absolutely. So we got to take a quick sponsorship break.
Got it.
We'll be right back here in a minute.
Hi, this is Tammy with Copper Creek Cookies. We've been baking smiles for over 15 years. We can print anything on our individually wrapped logo cookies. What a great way to market your business on our sweet, awesome treats. For more info, check out coppercreekcookies.net.
Hey, we're back from our sponsorship break. Thank you for taking time to listen to the ads and get through them and meet us here on the other side. We're going to continue our interview with Scott. And the next thing I want to ask you is, what advice do you have for listeners pursuing being a martial arts instructor? This is your chance to be the mentor on the mics. What do you got?
Man, I think the biggest, if that is the one thing that you want to do, seek out individuals who do that one thing. My martial arts instructor, Belsing Sensei, he did not do it as his main source of income. It was not, one of his jobs. He had his field of work as a law enforcement officer, and teaching the martial arts classes was a passion, a love, something that he was able to do, and it was great to have whatever extra money came in.
Yeah.
I was fortunate, I think, because what I wanted to do career-wise, with Japanese being a language teacher, was my main job, was going to be my one thing that I would do, and teaching martial arts was that break from reality, that passion, that outlet. I could still learn by teaching, and again, still, this is why I love to teach, because I will continue to learn things. I don't know from firsthand experience what it is like to have a martial arts school that has classes from, say, 6 a.m. until 8 p.m., 6 days a week, and that is the main source of income that individual has. So if somebody is out there that wants to do that, that's going to be their thing. That is how they're going to make their living, how they're going to support their family. Man, oh man, please go find individuals out there who do that and have done that and can continue to do that, because it's a different ballgame. It really is. Everybody else that thinks that they might want to do it more as I don't want to say a side thing, but again, as a way to continue to live the training.
Yeah.
Continue to live the training. I justify a lot of a lot of purchases for my business, like, we need some more barbells. I just fill the dojo with those are my toys. I mean, I don't spend my money on jet skis or anything like that. I get workout equipment because I love working out, and so for me, this is a way that I can indulge. If you have children and you want to have the priceless, invaluable experience of not just teaching but training with, competing with, suffering with your kids, like I have done, then that is probably absolutely the best reason, because there is no price tag on that. Looking back at all these difficulties, before my kids were old enough to train with me at the dojo, I knew that I was, on a path, setting a foundation so that when they would, take classes from me and train with me, that we would always have that. And my kids are 16 and 15, actually next month, 17 and 16. And they have been with me in the dojo since I think they were 7 and 6. Oh gosh, wow, yeah. I was just now putting that in perspective. And it's all been worth it.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
it's probably worth 3 or 4 times what you might be able to write down on paper. The number of hours, and that is the best reason, to do it, because you can, like I said, not just teach them, not just train with them, but watch them grow into individuals and learn from them, and that's so to recap my advice, somebody who wants to be that full-time martial arts instructor, like, that is what they want to do. They want to own their own gym. They want, that's going to be their main source of income. Man, seek out those people who have done it and are good at it, because it is a very different ball game.
Yeah.
People that want to do it because they're looking for this next step in their martial arts, or they just kind of want to have it as a hobby, really think about what your program objectives are going to be. If it's just going to be, hey, we're going to be a group of people, we're just going to meet at the YMCA, or the community center or the church, a couple times a week, when it's not going to be formal, be clear with that to yourself. That way you can be clear to the students that you take, because they won't know anything more than what you project to them in your business explanation. You don't want to end up with people who are disillusioned, 6 months or a year later. Well, hey, I thought this program was like this, but now I find out it's like that. And again, that breaking of trust hurts relationships. Sometimes they're not repairable. But if you hope to have an experience like I've been fortunate enough to have my kids train with me, learn from me, and you are serious about education and training. I'm a teacher, so I'm going to do it only one way. If it was a private Japanese language school, this would be the way that I would do it. If it was a language institution that taught multiple languages, this is the way that I would do it. But that's also something that I'm familiar with because I've been a teacher for as long as I have. I've seen the private sector, college level courses. I'm a K through 8 instructor now here in Tucson. So I would only do it this one way, but there will be sacrifices that you have to make. It will not be.
Oh, yeah.
It will not be easy.
Yeah.
It will not be easy. But if you're looking to find that experience with your kids, that is invaluable, priceless, then you'll never have any regrets about it. The question will become, what do you do when your kids are all grown up and are, let's say, away at college? I'll be looking at that question in a couple of years because
Soon.
he'll be a senior in high school next year.
Wow.
And she'll be a junior in high school next year.
Wow.
So I guess I'll have to deal with that when it comes.
It's coming.
I know.
It's
before
coming.
Before you know.
But
it.
we won't think about it until it's here. How do people connect with you?
Social media is great.
Yeah.
I did not embrace social media for the marketing aspect of it. I was encouraged to, which was a great piece of advice. I'm glad I did, but I found that for me as a teacher, social media is a pedagogical tool that is so valuable. Mm-hmm. Grandparents, aunts, uncles, even parents themselves who can't be at the martial arts class watching their child, if they're able to see that we've gone live, they can tune in and be a part of their kids' martial arts training. Students can review video that went live, and see themselves and hear the feedback that was given and learn from that. Mm-hmm. And huge thing, if somebody is interested in martial arts classes and they kind of want to know what we're like, see what accomplishments our students have made and how they train. Yeah, we definitely train hard. Mm-hmm. So when I hear moms who say it's the coolest thing to see young ladies throwing around barbells, and that's what stuck out to them as, hey, I want my daughter here. Yeah, that's way cool. Mm-hmm. But conversely, when a parent tells me the training is just too intense, that is still very important, useful data. Okay, so we have identified something that you don't want or you don't like, and that's still, you don't just throw away that data because it doesn't fit your hypothesis. Yeah. You've got good data. And seeing is believing. So social media is one of the best ways. Reading our Google reviews. We've had members, adult students, and parents who have gone out of their way to write detailed reviews, telling their child's story, telling their own story, and it might be, hey, you know what? That sounds a lot like me. Yeah. And that's another great way. Everything, all our contact information is on our social media as well as, Google and our website. We are not as accessible as many other martial arts schools out there. As a private academy institute, you would enroll for the quarter or the semester, just like with college classes. So we don't take any students beyond our 2-week enrollment period. Once the new quarter starts, we don't accept any new students, and all that information is on our website as well, because there is that process of making a reservation. Mm-hmm. Right, it's all by appointment to schedule your one-on-one consultation, to have your class observation, which typically happens in the same day. Yeah. The new student meeting is the Sunday before the beginning of a quarter. That's an absolute must. Mm-hmm. And after that, there are 2 weeks of free classes to try at the beginning of the new quarter. But we don't take anyone else beyond that Sunday.
Good to know. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's again where, if we're not easily accessible and the parent comes to me, I need something for my son right now. Yeah. I cannot wait. Great. I can tell you, I can send you to some other great martial arts instructors here in Tucson that are taking people right now. Yeah. And I mean, as a professional, you refer professionally. I would hope that if I went to a doctor, and he couldn't figure out what was wrong, that he would
send you the right way,
he would refer me professionally, right? Yeah. So.
Well, Scott, it's been great having you here, hearing about your business, hearing about your whole process of getting to where you're at now, all the stuff that it entails to do what you're doing. You know, the listeners, you know, he made it pretty clear. He's doing several different things. He's got several different programs at his dojo, at his academy, and he's also a teacher. He's also working on that. So he's a busy man. He's got 2 kids that are growing up, and they're part of his programs. And
an extremely patient wife.
Yeah, we got to have those. And he's doing a lot for the community as well. You know, there was a news story that was recently done on one of his.
Yep, it's our food drive and pledge-a-thon.
His food drive and pledge-a-thon. There was a news story that came out. You can see that it's on social media. We also shared it on social media, on LTD Media, and I also shared it on my personal profile because I just love that kind of community stuff. I love the stuff that's going on here in the community. You can tell Marana's really starting to expand, and the community and small businesses are really getting more and more powerful, and it's really cool to see. And it's because of people like you and then the people that you know, the other small businesses that are involved. So again, it's a pleasure having you here on the podcast. I really
appreciate you having me.
If you know anybody that wants to be on the podcast, you know, send them our info.
Will do.
Listeners, if you know anybody that might want to be on this podcast that owns a business, that's a community leader, has a cool story, send them our way. You go to ltdmedia.net. There's an interest form to fill out there. Or you can just shoot us an email, contact@ltdmedia.net. Again, we thank you for listening, and we are also looking for sponsors for the next 2 seasons. So if you're interested in having an ad on our podcast, just reach out to us and we'll get that recorded and going. Thanks. Looking to launch your business or grow your current business? Look no further. Live the Dream Media LLC is here to help. We offer services in social media marketing, social media management, content creation, videography, website building, online store creation, blogging, podcasts, recording and publication, logo creation, business consulting, and other advertising means such as Spotify, Google, Facebook, TikTok, and you name it. Reach out to us today. Visit ltdmedia.net.